I actually look at them as blessings, because without experiencing the dark, the negativity, the abuse, I don't think that you fully appreciate the light and the goodness and all the positive things that can come your way.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. Hello and welcome back to the show. Great to have you here. If this is your first time, welcome. Thank you for joining us. And if you've supported the show for any length of time, you know what you're in for. And thank you very much for your support. I've been reading your feedback, and knowing that the show is making a difference for you is making a great deal of difference for me. So thank you very much for your support. Now, on today's show, I have the pleasure of welcoming award-winning and celebrated author, speaker, and educator, Dr. Marni Hill Foderaro. Welcome to the show.
Oh, hi, Rick. Thank you so much for having me here.
It's absolutely my pleasure. Now, you and I are going to talk about the impact of changing careers, the importance of finding and following your passion, and how to work through past trauma to live your best, most productive life. But I think it's important, especially given the conversation we've had offline, to share with the audience where you're calling in from today.
Oh, sure. I'm calling in from the Caribbean.
Oh, beautiful.
So for the last 3 years, I've been living in St. Croix in the U.S. Virgin Islands. But originally, I'm from the Chicago suburbs.
Fantastic. Now, we'll obviously take a deep dive into what inspired you to move there, but tell us a little bit about that environment. In actual fact, I believe you're the first one on the My Future Business Show, given that we're a global audience, to come in from the Caribbean.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful place. I decided to move to Paradise after retiring from a wonderful career, 35-year career as a high school special ed teacher. 12 of those years, I was an adjunct graduate school university professor. And, when I made that career change, I was also making a very big life change. And, I was fortunate enough to be able to choose where I wanted to live. And there were many different places that I was considering, but the Caribbean won. So here I am.
Wow. And that was obviously a matter of choice for you. But what was, the motivation to move?
Well, I was leaving a lifetime in the Chicago suburbs. I actually left a fairly toxic marriage after 27 years. So it was a very big change. And, at one point after I kind of escaped that situation, I realized I had lost everything: the house, the money, even adult children to parental alienation. I really had to kind of reevaluate my entire existence. And during that time, I really started on my healing journey, and that involved changing careers, like you sort of mentioned. Now that I'm an author,
Yep.
But I really wanted to just be true to my own values and my own interests and passions, and found that I really wanted to be surrounded by the beautiful ocean and the sun. And, I've always enjoyed different cultures. And actually, even though it's United States and it's a territory, it really is kind of a different culture here on the island. And so I was very fortunate enough to, be able to have that choice and make that move.
Thank you very much for sharing insights into your life. I'm sure this is going to be a wonderful call. Now, when you have some time to just whittle away, what do you like to do with yourself?
Well, I love to write. I really have found that writing has become just a part of me. And I've always enjoyed reading and just putting words together and the meanings of it all. I even dabbled in with my latest book series. I have a 5-book series entitled True Deceit, False Love, where I even dabble in poetry, acrostic poetry and free verse poetry. So I really enjoy doing that. But of course, I take advantage of everything and anything that this beautiful island has to offer. So I am swimming and snorkeling in the ocean.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
going on hikes. I'm exploring the rainforest. It's never a dull moment here. So I keep myself busy with a lot of that.
We have a lot of aspiring authors on the show, and having written a book myself, I know that it is one heck of a journey to get to that moment where you've actually published your book, let alone a series of books. Can you take us
Yeah.
back to that very first time and talk us through the process and I guess the feeling that you had when you finally finished that last word of the page?
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't think you ever feel like you're finished.
No.
Even when you put that last word on the page, there's always editing and re-editing. And even after your book is published, you can always look and say, gosh, I should have said this, or I would have liked to have said that. So I don't know that I have that exact same kind of closure. But before I moved to the Caribbean, I actually had to have a garage sale. I was leaving a beautiful home that I thought was paid off for. I thought I would be living the rest of my days there, but that wasn't the case. And so I did have to have a garage sale, like a yard sale or a trunk sale, whatever people call it, different things. And actually at that garage sale, even though it was a very bittersweet experience, I was just filled with love and happiness and gratitude. And when I was experiencing these deep feelings that really could have been negative, but they just weren't. And I'm a very positive, happy person, so it would have been unlike me to even though I was faced with a lot of challenges, negative challenges. I've always just handled them in a positive way. But I actually had some miracles, some experiences that were just very hard to explain from just, my normal experiences. They were very spiritual in nature. And it prompted me on a quest to do a lot of research about spirituality and near-death experiences and spiritually transformative encounters. And just to try to make sense of what I experienced. And I was so moved by what I experienced, I was compelled to write about it. And so the first book that I ever wrote was called God Came to My Garage Sale.
What a name. That's a fantastic name.
Yeah, and it was actually endorsed by James Redfield,
Yes,
who
I
wrote the
noticed.
Celestine Prophecy and the 10th Insight. He found value in what I was writing. He also, as an author, has a background of writing spiritual fiction. So, definitely inspired by real events and true experiences, but written in a way that could maybe reach a wider audience. And so that book, I was just compelled to write that book. So even before I left the Chicago suburbs, I had that book pretty much written. And I used my teacher background, my education background to kind of organize, because I didn't know how to write a book. I certainly had a lot of books on how to write a book, but I didn't feel like reading them. I really wanted to get into writing.
Just right.
Yeah, but I organized myself in a way, knowing the different experiences I wanted to write about, and then different things I wanted to incorporate under each of those kind of chapters, if you will. They're like vignettes. And so by the time I got here to the Caribbean, after settling in, which was just so very exciting, to move to paradise. I live on many acres in the rainforest, and just had just a great opportunity to start fresh, and so it was very exciting. But I also just spent a lot of time writing too, and getting that book in order. And it was published in September of 2019. And it ended up winning the 2020 Best Books Award, which was actually a surprise to me. But it was also encouraged me to keep going. And so I remember that was a really good feeling, just knowing that I had a book that other people really enjoyed reading, and, so much so that it won an award or got the endorsement of, an amazing author that I have admired for years. It really gave me a boost of confidence,
Yes.
and that started me on my writing journey.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing, because I know a lot of people, that's the biggest thing, isn't it? Making that start. So if anybody's on the call today listening to this, take some notes, because we're going to be sharing some amazing content as we work our way through the call. Now, I think for context, given that you are such a positive light in the world, for that context, I'm wondering if we can go back to your childhood. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in the northern suburbs, I guess it would be called, the North Shore of Chicago. So I grew up in a town called Lake Forest, and I was. It was a beautiful place to grow up, although I was always within me wanting to get out of Lake Forest. I was always wanting to just kind of grow up before my time.
Before time.
I left high school at an early age, started college early. I was very anxious to, be independent and make it on my own. And I think some of that has to do with, my upbringing with my parents. Later on, after I realized I was in a toxic, narcissistic, abusive relationship,
Yes.
when I started to do the inner work, which is very much needed when you find yourself, in these situations, you need to ask yourself, what made me a target for
This
this
individual.
kind of experience, when really I just wanted to live happily ever after, and, just had this fairy tale American dream that,
Yep.
I was trying to make come true, and stuck it out for a very long time. But in the process of trying to make sense of what's happened, you have to kind of go back to your childhood and put the puzzle pieces together and connect the dots to, did you experience intergenerational family trauma? And it turns out, I believe I did.
Yeah.
And, I didn't know it at the time, of course. I mean, I didn't know any better. I did know that my upbringing was a little bit different than a lot of my classmates or neighbors, because I was extremely independent. There wasn't necessarily a lot of structure at home. We didn't have like a set dinner time like some neighbors did. And, but some of that was a wonderful thing. I think some of that kind of hands-off parenting that my parents did kind of made me into the person that I am as well. So I don't look at things as all bad or all good. I look at it like they all contribute to making you who you are. And so even though I can look back and say, okay, this parent had some narcissism, had some traits, and yeah, I seem to be alienated from this parent, but then the other parent also did some of that alienation. I don't know. I've started to put the pieces together in my 60s,
Yeah,
so
wow.
it does take a long time for you to kind of come to terms with everything that, you've been through and what makes you who you are. But I look at even people that have been abusive in my life, I actually look at them as blessings, because without experiencing the dark, the negativity, the abuse, I don't think that you fully appreciate the light and the goodness and all the positive things that can come your way.
You can't buy experience in life, and I know through our previous conversation just prior to starting the call today that somebody very close to me has been exposed to this narcissistic characteristic and not even being aware of it. Now, how was it that you came to be aware that this was what was happening? I wouldn't know how to work out what a narcissist looks like.
Well, and I'll tell you, I didn't even know that term
No.
or any of the terms. And I think what happens is when you find yourself, you try to figure out, why do bad things happen to good people? And I look at myself as a good person, and, I did make some bad choices, I suppose. And to stay in a situation knowing that there were red flags. But I kept on believing, okay, well, I made a vow, or, it's better for the children if I stay. I'll ignore this. And there's a lot of intermittent reinforcement where, there are positive times, good times, but then they're mixed with real negative times as well. And so I think I had to learn that, what gaslighting was, for example, where, where a normal, accomplished, educated person can start to feel like they are not worthy or capable, when really they are, but they're made to believe that that there's something wrong with them, that they're confused, their memory's bad, they don't do things right, they don't wear the right clothes, they don't, a lot of times the narcissists are very, very concerned about their public persona, their image of what it looks like. Lots of times these people have very high positions in the community, and they love that power and control that they have, where and they project this image that they have such integrity, when behind closed doors, that's not really the case. So I don't know. I think you have to kind of, look at some of the red flags. And for me, to understand this, I had to do a lot of research. I had to look into this. And then actually, the first book in my 5-book series called True Deceit, False Love, the first book is actually 15,555 terms and phrases on domestic violence, narcissistic abuse, and parental alienation. And how that came to be was through my writing down, hey, I don't know what this term means. What does smearing mean? Or what is stonewalling? Or, these different terms that are thrown around when you check out podcasts or read literature. And I didn't know what they meant. So I wrote them down to look them up at a later date. And before I knew it, I had 100 terms. And actually, it wasn't much longer, and I had 1,000 terms. And then I had 10,000 terms. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to stop at some point. So I stopped at 15,555, and amazingly, this whole series has also been widely endorsed, prominently endorsed by influencers and academics within this abuse recovery community. So even the person who wrote my foreword, my introduction, who really saw value in what I was doing, is Dr. Sam Vaknin. And, he actually is a self-proclaimed narcissist. So he is someone that was diagnosed with this. Most narcissists aren't diagnosed. I mean, most of them don't think anything's wrong with them, and it's always someone else.
Yeah.
But he went so far as to look into getting help for that, and now teaches on this. He's a professor, and really, he does podcasts and interviews daily on various aspects of narcissism. But he wrote my foreword and loves the fact that I didn't make this a glossary or a dictionary of any kind, because really some of the healing is connecting the dots to your own experience and looking at terms. And of course, there's many different definitions for the terms, but you can, in looking up things, you can really relate it to your own experience, and then it has meaning, and then it has healing. It really will help you move forward.
You must attract a wide range of personality types, different age groups who have experienced this. Now, I know that there is a lot of hurt when you suddenly feel and recognize that you have been, I guess, the true victim, on the true victim side of this, whereas the narcissist, by definition, will always play the victim to their friends to keep face. I know this. I know this for a fact. And I wonder, You're such a positive, vibrant person. Did it hurt? And how do you suggest that those who are listening to this call, how do they process it when they feel alone and lost?
Of course it hurts, and we need to acknowledge our feelings. And for me, acknowledging them in writing has helped me just get it out of my body, out of my mind, and onto the paper. And it kind of is a process to remove it, so you're not stuck with the trauma within ourselves.
Yeah.
So that physical act of writing really helped me, but of course it hurt. And actually, it's shocking, but at some point after, in my case, after 27 years of marriage, I already knew I didn't have respect or really like the person that I was with. So actually, separating from that person wasn't as bad as I've read other people's situations where they're still in love with their abuser. And I was not in love anymore, but I certainly loved him, and I loved the idea of being a wife and mother.
Yeah.
And so it was very sad, not so much leaving him. It was shocking. Some of the things, he actually confessed to a lot of things one night. And so really within one night, I had so much confirmed for me that I was, there was no question in my mind that there was no question. But I was also the next day or the day after, physically threatened and told, don't you dare divorce me. If you divorce me, I will take everything from you. I will take your house, your money, your children. And actually one of the toughest, the saddest things, and I still hurt tremendously from this, is I'm alienated from my 2 adult children. And one of the children, it's been, 8 years already. And, that is just mind-boggling because, as a loving parent, whether you're a dad or mom, to just lose the love and contact with your own children based on lies and half-truths and whatever it is. It's a smear campaign, and in extreme cases, and mine's pretty extreme alienation. That part was extremely sad. And then, of course, talking about the emotions of being sad, it was sad to later on, many years later, to look at my own family situation. And I felt sadness, in that I had experienced some things as a kid, and then having to make some decisions about whether or not to let people back into your life.
Yes.
At some point you do need to make a decision, even though you might have family ties or friendship ties. The best thing to do is no contact. It's it can be the healthiest thing. And that was a very tough decision.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Another thing I'll mention here, it's not always romantic partnerships or family. I realized that a best friend that I had since I was 5 years old, so someone, over 50 years, that I was close with and believed we were soul sisters, that our friendship would last forever. I at one point, the same kind of thing, like the mask of the abuser falls off, the false, there's deceit there. I found out so much betrayal and deceit and condescension, and that losing that friendship, and that was one that I walked away with no real closure. No. Ideally it'd be nice to say, hey, we need to work on the relationship, or I'm going to step back because of this. There was nothing like that. I knew that the best thing was just to walk away. And that was, in some ways more painful than leaving a 27-year marriage.
Yeah, wow, this is very, very powerful stuff, and there'd be a lot of people on this, in tears because I can feel the emotion, and I'm hopeful that talking about this is a healing process for you because I guess that I believe that a problem shared is a problem half. So I really, really appreciate you opening up like this. Now, in terms of writing, you have obviously a series of books. Now, what's next?
Well, I don't know. I do have one more book in me. Actually, my fifth book of the True Deceit, False Love series works with terms and phrases as well.
Mm.
And that is at the publisher now. It'll be coming out in a week or two. But I do believe I have a sixth book in me. And I don't know that much about screenwriting or anything like that, but I believe I want to write a movie.
Oh, wow.
And I want to combine my original spiritual fiction along with the family violence and the family trauma, but with the message of love and hope and goodness
And forgiveness.
And so I do have that in me. I'm certainly thinking about it, and in my mind, I'd like to say that, I'm really going to just try to do this within this year. And then I think maybe for 2023, I'll step back from all of this, from the interviews, from the writing, and just go about the business of living my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Life is not a dress rehearsal, and the curtain closes on all of us at some stage, so you certainly need to enjoy it while it's upon us, don't we? Now, tell us a little bit about, your website and how you came to choose God Came to My Garage Sale as a domain name. What a fantastic domain name.
Well, that's the name of my spiritual fiction. So that's the name of my book. I had no idea I would be writing other books. And so I just, I'm not on social media. I just have my website. And so I've organized the website that you can read about me as an author. You can read about the people that have endorsed my books and what they had to say about my writing. You can look at the different awards or whatever. That's all on there. But I have a happenings section where I pretty much keep up to date. And not only do I put interviews and book signings and TV appearances and different things that I am involved in, I also use that section as kind of a resource where I highlight other people's work, other people's books, and so it's a place where people can go to find out what I'm doing and what I'm up to, but at the same time, if they want to learn what parental alienation is, they can scroll around and get definitions and get other people's take on that kind of thing. So I try to keep that up to date. But yeah, I decided to keep my website the same name as my first award-winning spiritual fiction.
So with the internet being what it is, you would obviously have a large reach, as everyone does who has a website. Are you doing much face-to-face, or is it all predominantly online when you work with people and share your insights?
Oh, it's a combination. Of course, the last 2 years, things have shifted
Tricky.
as far as a lot of the in-person activities. But, I just spent 3 weeks skiing out west in Utah.
Oh, beautiful.
And, I had a wonderful vacation skiing, and it was a spa vacation. And
very nice.
It was just wonderful to have a change of scenery. But I also did an in-person book signing there.
Excellent.
So I arrange in-person events when I can. Living in the Caribbean now, I am not traveling as much, but I will get back to that more.
Fantastic.
So I think my events are a combination. They're both, they're online, of course, with podcasts and that type of thing. But, I also teach writing workshops. I also, like I said, I just recently had an in-person book signing in Utah. And
yeah, that's
I'm going to
wonderful.
be also a big event that's coming up. I'm going to be in June. I was selected by the board of directors of this organization called SAI, which is Spiritual Awakenings International, run by Dr. Yvonne Kaysen. And we have connected because of my spiritual experiences and her organization. And so I've been selected to be a panelist, with them in June. So that's, different events are coming up. I get asked at least once a week to be on someone's podcast because they either like the topic of writing, spirituality, or just bringing awareness to family trauma.
So the best place for you, if you were on this call today, and we've only really touched the surface of Marni's insight, life experiences, sage advice, call it what you like. It's all very, very valuable content. If you went to godcametomygaragesale.com, you're going to find out every single thing you need to make a connection with Marni and all of the wonderful work that she's doing. And Marni, again, I have really, really enjoyed speaking with you on the My Future Business show today. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate, this opportunity to highlight my work and to connect with wonderful people like yourself. So thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.